Welcome back. If you haven't listened to the Ask Brien Radio Show, that's AskBrien for the website, askbrien.com. And remember, you spell Brien with an E. If you spell it with an A, if you spell it Y-A-N or I-A-N, you don't know how to spell. So go back to school, learn how to spell Brien with an E, AskBrien, for the radio show, Ask Brien Radio Show. For those of you who have never listened to the show, I don't know what to tell you. You need to start listening. Ask Brien Radio Show is part of the AskBrien.com website. AskBrien.com website is a site where business owners come together to have business problems solved by experts. They can also have a problem solved by the community, but they have it solved by an expert. Experts are not automatically put into the Ask Brien site. You don't apply. You have to go through an application process. We have to vet you. We have to visit your website if you have one. We have to find out your credentials, go over your resume, determine whether or not you're qualified, see if you have 10,000 hours. What's that? 5 years of experience. Because if you don't have 5 years of experience, then you have to have something else that you've done really, really well in your career that proves that you have some success. If you don't have that, then you're not qualified to be an Ask Brien expert. What does that mean for the business owner? Well, it means the business owner is getting great expertise and having an expert tell them what they need to know. Experts are qualified. They are then allowed to put videos on the website. They are allowed to put webinars on our master calendar system. They're allowed to have ebooks, blog posts, and basically any information that they want to post onto the site can be done. So it's very, very important for those people that can become an expert. Now, unfortunately, if you've ever listened to this show, and it's a great show, unfortunately, my guest host, Lindsay Mann, the beautiful, wonderful, exquisite, classy Lindsay Mann, is unavailable. However, we have our co-host, Mr. Alex Grossman. Alex, are you there?
I am here, Mr. Brian Johnson, and filling in for Miss Lindsay today, and very happy about that.
Well, that's a very, very high task to do, so I don't know if you're qualified. You might be an expert in Ask Brien, but that doesn't mean you're qualified to replace Miss Lindsay Mann.
I'll do my best. I will do my best.
Give it your shot. Now, hold on one second here. I'm sorry, but I've got a disconnection here. Hold on. So, do we have our guest on? Is our guest on yet? No. That's very interesting. All right, we're going to have to find out where our guest is. We have a very, very special guest, Alex, and we're going to have her on in a bit. We're going to see if somebody can call her up on her line to find out where she is right now. So, Alex, before we start our show, you were asking me legal questions previously because I do have a career as an attorney, and so I'd like to know what those questions were.
Well, Brian, as you know, being an entrepreneur, being in business several times, and hopefully being an expert on Ask Brien because of success and various other reasons, we do always run into serious problems, hopefully not legal problems, but running a business, we have all these different problems. And, we had previously talked about starting a business and incorporating a business and why it was important, and I think that's something people care about. But for me, it's always coming up with ideas, and businesses, sometimes are about good ideas and bad ideas. But, lately I've had a few patents in my career, and lately I'm always worried about trademarking and people stealing my ideas. And I really want to know, is it that important for me and others to get out there and trademark the ideas, or do we just use them? I really, can you give me 5 minutes on how I should protect the ideas, or should I even bother? Should I just say it doesn't pay, or should I do it?
Well, first of all, you've asked a lot of questions all in one. So we call this compound question as opposed to a simple question. Now, first of all, protecting an idea, protecting a patent, and protecting a trademark are actually three different concepts. So you have to be a little bit more specific. I know I sound like the law school teacher asking you those questions. And by the way, our guest is trying to get on, but the engineers are working on that technical difficulty to see what they can do to bring her back on. But essentially, Alex, a patent is basically a process. And in order to protect a process so that your system can be protected, so no one else can use it, you would need what's called a patent. A trademark is basically something used to identify a good. Are you there? Alex, did you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out for a minute there. I think our guest came in,
okay.
But I did get a little of that.
Okay, so a trademark is something used to identify a good. That's called a trademark. Service mark is something used to identify a service. And original ideas and concepts are generally protected by copyright. Those three pieces are created to create intellectual property. Those are the three main bases. When somebody says intellectual property, they're referring to patents, trademarks, and copyrights. So your question in terms of protecting an idea, the reality is if it's a specific, unique process, it's a patent. If it's a unique item to identify more along the lines of branding, a good, you would have a trademark. And if you wrote a book or software program, you'd want to have it protected by copyright. Now, there are goods and bads. In order to protect it, you have to disclose it. So everybody will know what it is, because obviously people don't want to copy it and be found infringing and getting a big lawsuit. So, but my understanding is my guest is online, and no, she's not. Okay. I guess we're having difficulties, so we're going to go back to our question.
So let me ask a little deeper on that. So I've gone through the patent process, and it's been an attorney, and having the right one was important because, getting an abstract and diagrams and all these things were right. But I'm a little confused on the copyright and the trademark piece. Do I need to do that? Do I need to go through an attorney, or do I just go up to the trademark government website and just file a trademark? Or how would I do that? Because, the name is really important. We see this all the time. To me, I'm not saying I'm great at this, but I've come up with a lot of really interesting names, and some of them have been really good, and I want to protect them. So how do I go about doing that?
Well, first of all, you can't pick names to protect, okay? Trademarks or service marks are items that are used to identify your product, good, or service. And in order to protect it, you have to be using it. So if you don't use it, you don't have copyright, you don't have trademark rights, you don't have service mark rights. What was that?
Hello.
Oh my
I think
God.
that's our guest coming in.
That's my guest. Well, I'm going to finish up the question, and then we're going to go right into our guest. So if the guest can hold on for a second. The trademark has to be used in commerce, in business. If you don't use it, you don't have a trademark. There are something that came about in 1991 under the Madrid Act that allows you to file what's called an intent to use, where you intend on using a mark in the future, and you can try to protect it. But the reality is a trademark on its own is only protectable really when it's actually in use in commerce. The intent to use will establish your date to other people, but if somebody has used it prior to you, they will have a superior right to your trademark.
So you're saying I should just go ahead and use it first and then trademark it afterward, or should I have it searched first before I decide to use it?
Search first, because
Okay.
whoever uses it first is going to win the battle, and you don't want to find out that, oh my God, I didn't realize I couldn't use McDonald's. I have McDonald's underwear. What's the big deal? But
Right.
The problem is, and that's a bad example because McDonald's is such a popular one, you probably couldn't even do McDonald's underwear. Although if your name was Mr. McDonald's and you've been producing underwear for the last 100 years, you might be able to. But that's for
Fantastic.
another day and another dollar.
Well, thank you, Brien, for that great answer. Appreciate it.
We do have a wonderful guest, and you've been listening a little bit about trademark copyrights because I do have a legal background. But my guest, her name is Tamara. Are you there?
I love it. How are you?
Well, you missed all the intro, but maybe start on Facebook Live. I don't know. And for those of you who have missed anything, go to Facebook Live because we're there. So we have a great guest. Now, my understanding is you are currently in the Los Angeles area. Do you live in Los Angeles, or do you come from somewhere down under?
I'm a bit of both. So family is based in Australia on the beach, and I commute here. So we have this saying in Australia called FIFO, which is fly in, fly out. So I call myself the ultimate FIFO.
Well, that's a very, very interesting commute. I thought it was pretty bad coming from Marina del Rey to Santa Clarita, or going from Torrance to Calabasas. But I would think commuting from Queensland, Australia, to Santa Monica, that'd be a hell of a commute. I don't know that I could do that even on a weekly basis. What do you think, Alex?
I think it sounds like a fun trip. I've done it a few times, and I think it's a fun trip. If you don't like to sleep and you like to have jet lag both directions, it's perfect.
Okay, so
I've been doing it since my 20s. You get a system down, and it also helps what part of the plane you're flying on, right?
Well, exactly.
That's very true.
Exactly. And so the question all of our listeners really want to know is, when you flush the toilet, which way does it go? Because that's a big issue for Americans versus Australians.
I think it's more about the amount of water that you guys have in it. It looks like a swimming pool. Crazy.
Well, we don't have a drought in California, right, Alex?
That's 100% true. We just have an abundance of water here in the state. It's perfect.
In fact, I just want to pour all the water on the street here and just take a boat home. So, anyway, you say when you're in your 20s, aren't you still in your 20s?
Oh God, no. In my 40s now. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So anyway, what led you from Australia to America?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur since I was 19. So I've been running a business for over 20 years. And I moved into investment and wellness about 7 years ago, and Australian products mainly that are vegan, organic, and cruelty-free. And obviously that's quite trending here, especially in Cali. So I got to get on QVC and got into Nordstrom and a few great retail stores. And it kind of took off from there. So that's sort of our focus. I mean, obviously, Australia is a very small market. My mandate is to sell product around the world. And so this is sort of my focus at the moment. So I've got a range of wellness products, and they're all sold both in Australia and in America.
So just in maybe 1 minute, just tell us, what was your background prior to getting involved with this product 7 years ago?
Yeah. So marketing agency, actually. So social media, digital marketing, and, grass is always greener, right? So sitting there doing fee for service, all my friends in my, network of businesses had product-based businesses, and they were getting exits. And I was thinking, well, gosh, if I want to exit my business, it's going to come with golden handcuffs. And I've been self-employed since pretty much out of uni, so I don't think I'd make anyone a very good employee. So I thought, well, how can I leverage the skills that I have, or the 10,000 hours, I guess? I mean, I have the luxury of 15 years of looking under the hoods of some of the biggest brands in the world and learning from them. So I decided, look, maybe I'll do a product. And what am I passionate about? It was wellness. And I couldn't think of a product idea at the time. And someone in my network said to me, why would you? 4 out of 5 businesses are failing because they can't get access to capital, or they're learning through the money that they've raised all the mistakes that you and I have already learnt, and they run out of runway. Why don't you go and help one of them through a concept called sweat equity? So that's sort of how I turned into an investor. I don't call myself a typical investor that's come from like Wall Street or done that financial background. I'm actually creative, but what I do bring to the table is, the channels, the understanding of how to really communicate your message online, sell online, and most of my brands have gone from under $500,000 to over $10 million with no capital in 2 years, and profitable, which is the most important thing, right? So, and
that's brilliant.
Yeah, thanks. And look, if I don't win, I give the equity back. Fail quickly is my motto. So if I can't hit the targets that I've promised in order to take that equity, then I give it back to them, and they get to keep a year's worth of marketing, which is, quite something they couldn't afford before they'd met me. So.
Well,
that's a pretty exciting approach. So people must really like that idea. That gives them a little more security going in. Is that why you do it as well, or do you just feel you do a lot of serial things at the same time?
Look, no win, no fee. Like, what have you got to lose, for starters? A lot of them, have founder syndrome. They have this great idea and they think that they're going to be a billionaire overnight. So the reality of that is quite different. And for me, I think it's just the right thing to do. A lot of the time, by the time they see me, they're kind of running out of runway and it's a last resort. And I don't want to take advantage of them by taking equity at that point. So, for me, it's about, okay, how do we collaborate, have the best of both our heads? And I've obviously got a great infrastructure behind me with CFOs and advisory boards and obviously my engine room, which is the marketing. And, we just get it back on track. So, there's an old saying, you can own 1% of Apple or you can own 100% of your own business. So I know which one I prefer.
Apple. All right. So
yeah, me too. Sorry.
And that's
0.5%.
Yeah.
0.5%. You'd be like in Hawaii on vacation. So my question to you is, there's only a certain number of companies that you can be working with at one time. So you have to be very selective if you're going to be doing this on a sweat equity basis. Otherwise, you'd be inundated and you have 500 hours, to do, 10,000 hours worth of projects. So how do you select who to choose?
Well, look, you have to always pick the CASOs, and there's so many startups out there. So I really go back to the fundamentals of timing. 50% of business success is actually your timing. And the rest is really around execution and values. So I spend a lot of time understanding what their core values are as a person, because I think that if they're, the fish rots from the head down. If you don't have that right, then, you're going to get to 10 or 30 mil and it's just all going to fall apart anyway. So I really spent a lot of time at that front end doing due diligence, not only on the brand and the timing, but also on the person that I'm getting into business with. And there's a few things I look for. Ethics and values is really important. You're pretty much getting married, right? And I know the divorce rate is like 50% in couples, but I reckon the divorce rate in business is like 80%. It's right up there. So taking the time to do that is really important. So, and mentoring them. So, really spending 6 to 12 months with them before we jump, down the aisle, so to speak.
Well, at least you don't have to buy an engagement ring when you get a partner.
Exactly. Well,
Cost you
you
more
can have
money,
stuff.
believe it or not.
Yeah, well, there's no prenups in business, right? Are they called shareholders agreements?
They're called shareholders agreements.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and they call them partnership divorces when they end. So, how many companies have you done then in the last 7 years since you started this project?
I'm up to number 5 at the moment. So, being selective. Every 6 to 12 months, I usually work on a project. And I'm very clear on my mandate, so that really narrows it down. I mean, I've kind of worked a little bit with the Shark Tank people, and there's no way I'd ever go on that show because they have to pick up from all different industry types. And if you try and be in tech 1 minute and wellness in the next minute and then something else, another industry, transport or whatever it is, fashion, you end up mediocre at everything. So I'm very clear that my mandate is vegan, organic, cruelty-free, female-founded. There has to be a female founder, indie. So, that's really, so that really narrows it down. And what I find is a lot of people actually approach me because of my track record, obviously, but also because they've pre-qualified themselves before I spend time with them.
How do they find it?
Look, I wrote a book. It's I talk about it in my book, and that was the #1 Amazon new release. And, I'm very part of the community, the YPO community. I don't know if you know Young Presidents Organisation.
Yes, of course.
So I'm one of the token, 7% of females who are in YPO. So that's another driver for me. There needs to be more women playing a bigger game in business because YPO is an average turnover of 45 mil, just so if anyone listening doesn't know what it is. And, we do about 7 trillion, I think, collectively in America as far as turnover, so we're a big part of, the business ecosystem. And, we've got 7% females, and out of those, I think it's only a couple of % that are actually founders. So, to me, I can afford to be a little bit more selective around picking women who really want to play a bigger game and supporting them in this journey. And everyone has a part to play, right? I'm really interested in the startup when the businesses get too big and it's all about boardrooms and, growth expansion and lean manufacturing and all the stuff that comes with that. I tend to get to, not interested. I'm a creative, so I really love that startup phase. So I'm very clear that, okay, that's a high-risk area for someone like Unilever. They're not going to invest in businesses that aren't turning over at least, 50 mil. let me get it to that point, and then you guys can take it from here. And, for someone like Unilever, they're a very obvious choice for an exit, hopefully in the future, because they're ethical. Paul Polman has put some really beautiful things in place around sustainability and all the things that are important to me.
We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the Law Office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the Law Office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com.
If you're in danger of losing your home to foreclosure, you need an expert. Hi, I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty. I've helped hundreds of Santa Clarita residents save their homes completely for free. I've got just over 20 years experience and a loan modification success rate of over 80%. I can negotiate better terms with your bank, and I can save your home from foreclosure. And again, we do this completely for free. So if you're in any danger, please call me today at 661-714-1400. That number again is 661-714-1400. I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty, and I'll be happy to help you save your home for free.
Having solar installed probably isn't what you think. Our friendly team members work for a big solar company. We took our expertise and created a local company that makes sense for Santa Clarita.
HomeLink Solar can reduce your energy expenses now with a free consultation. Visit HomeLinkPros.com. Discover how you can save with solar without the big expense. HomeLink Solar. Your home better, your life better.
My favorite restaurant in Santa Clarita? Salt Creek Grill, of course. Great food, neat atmosphere.
For a business lunch or romantic dinner, I'll always go to Salt Creek.
Hi, I'm Greg Amsler, owner of Salt Creek Grill. We have created Salt Creek to provide you with the most comfortable and inviting restaurant in Santa Clarita. Enjoy fresh mesquite grilled fish, aged steaks, and the best chops imaginable. There's entertainment every Friday and Saturday night, and we have the best Sunday brunch in town. Salt Creek is on Town Center Drive in Valencia.
At iLead Agua Dulce, we believe the most important thing a child can learn in school is who they are. Life's real tests are never standardized, which is why we've developed an individual-based curriculum that values exploration, cooperation, and creativity. As our learners grow, so do we. Our tuition-free charter school is currently enrolling grades TK through 7th and adding 8th grade in 2020. Your young learner will be immersed in a unique environment where possibility and self-discovery are at the core of every experience. The Agua Dulce campus features beautiful indoor and outdoor spaces for hands-on inspiration, including a robotics lab, a garden bed, a greenhouse, and a technology-based exploratorium. iLead Agua Dulce is conveniently located on the east side of the Santa Clarita Valley, just off the 14 freeway. Check out our homeschool options too. To schedule a campus tour or learn more about our programs, visit iLeadAguaDulce.org. We're enrolling now. iLead Schools. Free to think, inspired to lead.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show. How do you spell it? With an E. ASKBRIEN. As part of our website, AskBrien.com. Brien is only spelled with an E. Nobody spells it Y-A-N or I-A-N. It's spelled I-E-N because that's how you spell Brien. And we're the Ask Brien Radio Show. Every week we have a guest on to try to help business owners solve some business problem, teach business owners something that they do not know. Ask Brien is associated with the AskBrien.com website. As I said, our normal co-host, Lindsay Mann, unfortunately is unavailable today. So we have a special guest host, and his name is Alex Gross. Alex, are you there?
I am here, Brien, and I was talking with our guest off the air a little bit, and I was just so impressed by, how she's helping female-owned businesses get started and get a grip in business. My own personal experience working as an entrepreneur and working in a lot of female and minority-owned businesses that they don't always get the capital they need. And I think our guest has some really interesting ideas of how to help that, and I'd love her to take a couple minutes to tell us about that, if you don't mind, Tamara.
Absolutely. And I love the E thing, right? Let's make that stand for ethical entrepreneurship, hey? But
absolutely.
Look, I love it. Capital, like, we get 2% of it, right? So capital is just non-existent for us. So we've got to find other ways to be creative and support each other in business. And, you know, capital isn't always a great thing. It's great for growth, certainly. But I find that, you know, a lean business, one that's simple, that's scalable, those ones usually capital makes those lazy. So, you know, I think capital has its place, but there's certainly smarter strategies for us to adopt, which is, you know, using the things that businesses really need, which is structure and strategy and take to market and marketing, obviously.
So do you barter?
Capital comes with a cost.
First of all,
yep.
Not everybody, I know we all know what capital is, but just so people understand, capital is really almost equivalent to money in terms of how we're using it. Now, do you ever barter your services?
Barter, that's an interesting thing. Well, I don't barter, but what I do is pay it forward. So whether I end up taking equity or not, I do a lot of government-funded, actually. Australia is very good for this, programs where we can put them through a turbocharge and really support them in their business. And I, you know, bring them on excursions to America and connect them with people in my network to help them grow and go global. So, you know, that's sort of my pay it forward model. And obviously my big mandate, I mean, after 20 years in business, it's not about the money anymore. You've gone through the survival stage. You've gone through the thrive stage. For me, really now it's about legacy. And, you know, for me, buy one, give one, and the sustainability goals is really my thing. So, you know, when we talk about bartering or putting things in place, for me, giving entrenched as a cost of goods is what's going to be the way to change the world's problems. And I think entrepreneurs need to lead that. And I'm very actively involved in that through Buy One, Give One and the B Corp initiatives through the sustainability goals for the UN. So,
do you take people only from Australia, or do you take people from the U.S. or any other country?
Oh, how can you say no to US? Of course I take US. Anywhere, really. I love you guys, though. So, yes, I've just taken equity in 2 local businesses and hope to announce those. They're local Cali businesses, and I'm hoping to announce that in the coming months. So I'm very excited about that. But again, you know, they have to agree to stuff that isn't very selfish of me, but, like, they have to start giving from day one. I don't care if they're profitable or not. Like, it's entrenched as the cost of goods. And what's really sneaky about that is if you entrench it right at the start, like it's a tax or a lid or something that's just a given, then you scale your business based on that. And one of the businesses that I had was a food preparation company. We did high-protein, low-carb meals. And, you know, when I met that business, it was just about to close its kitchen. And I think they were doing a couple of thousand meals a week. We went to 40,000 meals in year 2, and that meant we were feeding 40,000 kids in Africa in school. You know, when you scale your business for profit, but you also scale it for giving, you can make some pretty big impact. So, you know, I'm on a big mission at the moment.
I think it's a little sneaky as well, a little tricky there, that you're also looking at the ethics and moral you're dealing with if they're willing to do that up front. And I think that's a great test that you have to do that. Never mind, it's a good cause.
Look, it's a non-negotiable, and when people don't have money and they're finding it hard to, you know, go day to day, week to week, and I tell them that giving is entrenched, it's a really good thing to see where their headspace is, and their heart space, as I call it. And I don't call that fluffy. As a female, I think you know, the coherency between your heart and your head, and the way to be able to connect those and lead with those is really important. So, and when I say it's sneaky, if we entrench that as a cost of goods and we make that part of our brand message and our why, then when we exit it to someone big and then they take that from a $30 or $50 million company to a $200 million company, it's entrenched. It stays with it. which is really cool. That's where I get excited about the scale of the impact that we can make. So, if 1 in 10 businesses decide to do giving, even if they sell coffee on the corner street, together collectively we'll be, the size of, say, one billionaire who might give, like a Bill Gates. But we can't rely on them. They're few and far between, right? So collectively we need to use that power and, start driving some impact before it all goes too badly.
How many companies do you have at one time that you're working with?
7, and my mandate is to have 20.
Wow.
Yeah. Getting there. And my team is building. I'm attracting some really amazing mentors. Jeff Hoffman from Priceline.com, David Stute from Trilogy Spas. I mean, I'm so blessed with the people who are supporting me and helping me with this movement. So, we can have the best of both worlds, and there are some great humans that are entrepreneurs that are sort of in that end of their career that are giving back and giving me their time. And Priceline, what a massive company. For a little girl like me, it's kind of cool.
Absolutely. And now, what is his role? Is his role more as a consultant, more of an advisor, or does he actually get involved with some of the companies and actually, come up with game plans with you together?
Look, it's more of a high-level thing. So it's more around the legacy project, which Jeff is very passionate about. He obviously spends a bit of time at the UN. So it's more about my headspace, playing a bigger game, helping me with my limiting beliefs around scale and size, and also really figuring out what we want to do to impact the world. So it's we call it a B game. It's just so big that it's almost scary. And they're my mentors. So I always have a rule, and I do the same for every one of the businesses that I'm in. I find them a mentor, and I give them a business coach. And the business coach needs to be a life and business coach, because I believe that everything should be blended. Because if something's going on in your personal life, or if you're not in the right headspace, it directly affects your business. So all 3 parts need to be working together in a beautiful blend in order to scale a business. Otherwise, you scale it, the wheels start falling off, and if you're not in the right headspace, you won't be able to push through that.
So what is the top 3 criteria to match somebody?
To match somebody to a business coach or a mentor? For me, it's really about industry. For mentorship, it's about industry leaders. So being able to connect them with people who have done it before. Because what I find is that, their problems and the things that we find are problems are such little things for them. So it's all relative, right? Some people come to me and go, oh, my gosh, the stuff that you're doing, how do you fit it in? How do you get the time? But you've got to remember, I've been doing this for 20 years, so all we're doing is drawing bigger circles at a time. Fair enough, entrepreneurs draw circles of about 30% at a time, and the general public does about 10%. So we draw bigger circles, we jump in it, we feel uncomfortable, we grow in that space, we own that space, and we draw another one. So you've got to remember that these mentors have drawn a lot of circles. So when we look back, you think about the things you stressed about in your 20s, and now you go, oh my gosh, how's that even relevant? It's a small thing now. So I'm a big believer that you should always be a small fish in a big pond, and then once you start getting comfortable, you jump. You go to a bigger area. So, that's YPO to me. It's highly intimidating, but I love that because that's where I learn. That's where I get pushed to really push myself into bigger circles and bigger areas. So I make sure wherever they are in their entrepreneurial journey that I marry them up with somebody who can relate to where they're at and then help them push through those circles a little bit quicker.
So I'm going to ask you, what is your biggest failure and what is your biggest success as a business person?
Biggest failure was probably exiting a company to people that I thought could grow it for money, but I knew that their values weren't aligned. So that one went really pear-shaped. It didn't survive. The business didn't survive, which is always hard. I think my lessons and the things that I still need to work on is being able to grow a business and it go on to be even bigger and better without me. And that one had to do with the fact that I was simply looking at it as a strategic sale. I should have gone back to what I know, which is values. So the number one thing. And then the other thing that I failed at for a long time, but I've spent a lot of money on coaching and around this is really where I failed a lot was I was conforming. So I always cared what people thought. And, when you're a female and you put yourself out there, and it is very much a boys' club at the top end of town still, and there are some that are still behaving pretty badly. So the area that I failed is that I would let them behave badly and I wouldn't stand up for what was important. Whereas now I will say what I think. I will say to them, this is out of line. And then I will move on, not caring about what they think. And my business coach said something really interesting to me once. She said, Tamara, you're a 1%er. You've done it in revenue. You've done it, in what you've achieved. Everything points to the 1%. You win these awards, yet you care so much what the 99% think. She said, I don't want to hear it again. I only want you to come back and tell me that you're concerned about something and you're tiptoeing around somebody who's a 1%er, and then we'll deal with it. But until then, can you please just ignore everyone else? And I was like, permission to not care. So, and that's, part of the problem with being a female too in business. We need to really support each other as a tribe. But, it can also be very bitchy on the other side as well, amongst females. So we really need to support each other, lead with abundance, lead with passion and purpose, and start making some inroads to these horrible percentages.
And the other part of the question was your biggest success.
The biggest success. I think it's yet to come.
Good answer.
Hopefully. I think the biggest success will be when our children go and buy a coffee and then say, which charity is this going to on the sustainability goals? And they say, oh, none. And they go, what? What do you mean?
Oh, that's exciting.
That would be cool. And then when I get to tell my kids, like I tell my kids now, I say, do you know what? Women used to have to wear stockings to the office. And they go, well, that's absurd. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So I'm really looking forward to the day that I can say to my kids, do you know what? There used to be no women on boards, or there used to only be a token one. They'd be like, what? That doesn't make sense. So that's what I reckon I'll be a success. So, and define success, right? It's us entrepreneurs never like to be called that. We kick a goal in, we see it's going into the goal, and we move to the next football field. It's shocking.
Very interesting. Alex, you had a question?
No, I was listening. I think that's a great answer. I think success in a serial fashion of someone who is always looking to one-up their last success. I think success is yet to come, and I think your goals are highly achievable. The world is changing, and the only reason it changes is because people change it. And entrepreneurs have a role to play, and the role is usually bigger than them. But I think an entrepreneur who helps other entrepreneurs is probably the one who will have the most success in the end. So I give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you. Come join me. We can all do it. It's going to be fun too, right? Go. It's all about the journey, because it's not a sexy business, entrepreneurship. We've all watched too much Shark Tank. We think it's like an overnight success, but no one sees the difference between startup and success, right? In between is a hell of a lot of losing. So you've got to do it with a lot of work and a lot of work. And, execution's key. I said that before, but you'd be surprised how rare it is to find people who are willing to get in there and do what's needed. Maybe that's the Aussie thing. We're just, the underdog or something.
What was the name of your book? You said you had a book that you had on Amazon, and I don't think the listeners heard the name of the book. You just said you had it.
It's called Balance is BS, How to Have a Work-Life Blend. So I've spent a lot of time around female entrepreneurs in particular, but also, a lot of entrepreneurs globally, and just seeing how they achieve this whole, work and life and self. And, back in the day, it was like a balancing act. You'd spend too much time at work. You'd feel like you'd have to put some more time over at home. And you know what? If you're an entrepreneur or a breadwinner, it's for breadwinners, you have permission to blend these things. And I do it unapologetically. I am quite happy to say, look, I'm not going to be at that pitch because my daughter's got her tennis finals and I'm going to be there. But if it's okay with you, I'd love to dial in and listen while she's warming up, and if that's, and then giving them permission to do the same. And we don't do a 9 to 5. No one who works for me does 9 to 5. It's not productive. Multitasking has been proven to not work, and long durations of work also has been proven to not be productive. So how do we trust in people again, get them back to a blending environment, and you will see the outcomes are 10 times more than if you try and put them into this, segmented time and all that sort of stuff. I mean, you listen to the names, CEO, chief entrepreneur, it's all army-like. Like, let's get back to blending. Like, let's do that, because balance isn't working. Do you know anyone who's got that down pat?
You.
Yeah, I think, you bring it in, you do, exactly. No, you bring in a very interesting point on that is also, and I've written a number of articles in this as well, is that people get blinders. I wrote an article not too long ago about the technology, technology echo chamber that we have in the Bay Area, especially in California, where from a technology standpoint, we're all not innovating because we're thinking about our jobs and we're thinking about what we do. We don't realize that we're building products for people, and we're not even interfacing with the people because we don't have our lives. I mean, how can someone build a fantastic product for a family if you don't spend time with your family and understand what the needs really are? So I think your points are very well taken, and I think human brains need a little bit of diversity and continuous learning rather than just working. So definitely, I'm on board 100%.
We have about 15 seconds before our next break. How many hours a day do you think is ideal to be working, Tamara?
Look, I'm a workaholic, so I'm constantly blending, but I never do any more than 2 to 3 hours of highly concentrated time. And then I go find something to fill my bucket, so to speak. And, don't just remember, if you're not a success in business if you fail at home. So I would like to leave you with that thought.
Well, you're not leaving us, because we're going to be taking a break, and we'll be right back.
Live life juiced up at Juice It Up Valencia. Come in and try our great tasting smoothies, protein shakes, acai, and wheatgrass for your healthy lifestyle on the go. Also, enjoy our 10 flavors of tantalizing zinc frozen yogurt and selection of healthy toppings. Juice It Up Valencia is located at the corner of Newhall Ranch Road and Copper Hill Drive in the Office Depot Plaza. Open Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. and Sundays from 8 until 8. And remember to live life juiced up at Juice It Up Valencia.
It's never been so easy to have a great night out. Whether it's a date night or girls' night out, experience Pinot's Palette in Valencia or Encino. Order your favorite drink from the bar and paint your very own masterpiece. No art experience needed. Local artists make it easy for you, so you can paint, sip, and listen to great music while creating a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Fun, relaxing, and memorable. Pinot's Palette. To book your party, go to pinotspalette.com. That's pinotspalette.com.
It's back, bigger and better than ever. The Raleigh Kia Arena Event Demolition Derby returns to the Antelope Valley Fair Sunday, August 25th at 6 p.m. Tickets start at just $15 and include free fair admission. This classic action-packed event will thrill both young and old alike. Enjoy the last day of the 2019 Antelope Valley Fair at the action-packed Demo Derby. Purchase your tickets today at avfair.com. This is a paid grandstand event. Antelope Valley Fair presented by IBEW and NECA.
Capybara, Capybara, have you heard the news? Capybara, Capybara, they've got something new. Capybara, Capybara, at the Santa Barbara Zoo. Get happy with the Cappy at the zoo. At the zoo.
The capybaras are back at the Santa Barbara Zoo. Not only are they the world's largest rodent, but we think they're the cutest ones too. The capybaras are waiting for you at the zoo.
Get happy with the Cappy at the zoo. Get happy with the Cappy at the zoo.
At the zoo.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the law office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the law office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com.
I never thought I'd be looking for an assisted living home until Mom got sick. Suddenly, there were questions that I didn't have answers to, and only limited time to find the answers. What facility could take the best care of Mom? Then my mother's social worker gave me a brochure for assisted living locators and informed me that assisted living locators is recommended by more healthcare professionals than any other agency.
Call Shannon at Assisted Living Locators, 544-1004. That's 544-1004.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show. Everybody knows it's spelled with an E, A-S-K-B-R-I-E-N, because Ask Brien can only be spelled with an E. Anyone who spells it with a Y-A-N or I-A-N doesn't know. And we're back. And we have our co-host, and his name is Alex Grossman. And he's back.
Mr. Brian Johnson, very glad to be back, and with our special guest today as well.
Tamara, so we're back here. Tamara Lure. Couple questions we were going on before the break. So, my understanding is you have something about a beauty product or service that you're currently working with, some type of beauty product. Can you go over that background, explain it to us a little bit? Let's do a case study. We have a little extra time today because our engineers were kind of dozing off for a bit. So we have a little extra time. I'd like to do a case study on the beauty product company you're working with.
Sounds great. Well, I mean, one of the things that I subscribe to, or one of my values are creativity, impact, and one of them is do the opposite. So I quite often look at how people run industries and how it's been done for a long time, and I think about how I can do the opposite. And I think there's a real, timing is important, as I said, and there's a rise of the indie brand, so we call it the indie movement. So that's independent brands that are now, people are starting to buy. And in the beauty industry, it's really absurd, but like 97% of it is owned by men, and it's our own industry. And what's even more appalling is that all the top beauty brands test on animals. It's because they sell in China, and anyone who sells in mainland China tests animals, right? And, I mean, come on, science has come far enough that we don't need to do that, right? So I'm really about abolishing...
So they're putting lipstick on cows, what?
Well, yeah, they're testing products for allergic, it's pretty terrible.
Allergic reaction, yeah.
Yeah, allergic reactions, and, there's the whole saying, don't hurt a bunny. Look, there's a few things about the industry that I didn't like. I didn't like the fact that we don't even own the industry that we support 100%. It's a massive industry. I think it's over $50 billion in America alone. It's owned by men.
Mark, can I ask you a question on that really quickly to interrupt you on the industry? So in the beauty industry, we look at it. I'm a technologist. I look at the technology industries. We've seen a lot of consolidation in there. I look at the beauty industry. I've been married for a lot of years, same wife, and of course, she spends a lot of time on beauty products, and I greatly appreciate that. But the interesting thing about it, and men's beauty products also, they're getting big, right? Dollar Shave Club, things like that, right? They're huge. But is it owned by mainly big companies? Can you give us a breakdown on how that works, like where the entrepreneur would fit in there? Could you take a minute on that?
Yeah, certainly. So what's interesting, if I put my investor hat on for a minute and we look at just the general trends. So when you have an industry and 70% of it is occupied by three major players, that's open for disruption. So I saw that in the beauty industry, and you've got your big beauty mandates. So if you look up, Revlon, for instance, they own a house of brands. So there's three majors, and then I think outside of that is obviously your independent brands. So I'm interested in how do we disrupt that, and then, yes, they probably will end up acquiring a lot of the top indie brands, but those indie brands need to stand for something so that then we can shift their mentality. So that's the only way to do it. So it's funny that you mentioned the Dollar Shave Club, right? So I looked at the Dollar Shave Club model, which we don't have in Australia, but I saw it here. And I thought, why can't we do that for the beauty industry? Why can't we support female-founded indie brands that don't have $1 million or probably $10 million backing them to be able to even go up against these big brands with their billboards and their paid ambassadors and all the crap that they spend money on, not the product? Why don't we go up against them with the Dollar Shave Club model? And everyone said, you're mad. People are just going to take advantage of you if you give them product to try before they buy. And I said, so they were saying, well, why don't you just give them samples? And I said, well, that's what everybody else does. You get these tiny little samples, and you're meant to figure out if that's going to take your wrinkles away after a half of the use, which is impossible, or your hair is going to, feel better after multiple washes when you only get one wash out of it. So I think sampling is BS. And I also believe that, women have spent so much money on beauty products that we don't use. So go home, here's a little exercise for you. Open the drawers and ask your wife how many of these does she actually use, because a lot of us buy stuff and we don't end up using it, and it's very expensive. So I've taken a different approach. I'm like, okay, I'm going to support indie brands. You're probably never going to have heard of these beauty brands before, but I pick best in class. So I've searched and found the best ethical, organic, vegan products that I can find that are PETA approved, which means they're vegan and cruelty-free certified, which is really important, because a lot of people say that they're cruelty-free, but without certification, that might mean that they only don't test on animals in America, but they still choose to sell in China, if that makes sense.
Wow.
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so certified brands, and we're saying to women, you can try these products, and some of them are worth $150. The hair care is worth $70. You get to try them up front for 30 days for no money down. All you do is pay for the postage, and only if you love it do you then pay for it. And then as soon as you start paying for it, then we give you permission to try another one of our brands for no money down. And then you can work your way through and find beauty that you would never have discovered before for no money down, but knowing that they're all female-founded, ethical, and cruelty-free, and have impact entrenched. So our hair care gives to Save the Forest for the orangutans, and we, with every bottle sold, we donate to that cause. So they all have wonderful causes that are part of the sustainability goals for the UN and the B Corps. So it's pretty exciting, but, it's watch this space. Let's see how I go.
Well, I think you're going to go very far based on what I've seen so far.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's anything going to stop you. Now,
I think we've got to trust people again, right? We've got to remember that consumers have the power, not the big multinationals. And if they were just to shift their buying habits, then that's when the impact happens. So if we can just give the trust back and say, I trust you to take this product for 30 days and buy it if you want to use it. Don't take advantage of us giving it to you for free, because you're basically ripping off a female founder who now can't afford to do marketing because they're willing to give you a full-size product instead. I think, let's trust them again. Women do the right thing, and people do the right thing in general. So, and then the consumers can shift the way things are done. So imagine Dollar Beauty Tribe for the beauty industry. I mean, I don't think Revlon's going to like me very much.
I think you're probably true, but they may be, they may be an acquisition or an exit target at some point, right? And all these companies may pay attention. Yeah, I mean, it's possible these bigger companies may see your success, pay attention, change their ways, and start doing things the right way. And I think that's a goal that you can change, right? Look at that.
Absolutely.
Look at it's happened before.
It has. It totally has. I mean, look at when people get lazy, look at the taxi industry, and then it was disrupted, right? I just feel when an industry, when it's owned by three major players, it's 70% they own the market share, it's open for disruption. And I think if we're going to disrupt it, let's make it ethical, and let's fix a few problems and get chemicals out of stuff. I mean, it's really terrible, the stuff that they put in beauty. And women don't realize that they're actually putting on makeup every day that's boiled up body parts left over from animals, like all the leftovers, they boil it up and they use the fat on the top. And they use that in makeup. And that's feral, and it doesn't have to compromise. So that's the other thing. I've really made sure it's taken me a long time to find the best in hair care, and it has to work better than the stuff that is, using chemicals and all the cheaty ways to make it work. You don't need to cheat. You just need to have a high efficacy product. And plants, the power of plants is pretty amazing. I mean, look at your CBD movement. I mean, that's crazy. It's still illegal in our country.
Well, as a lawyer, I don't want to get involved in that subject because there are FDA issues. We could have a whole conversation about that.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask some questions now. And this is going to be a really blunt question. What makes it better that it's not from animals? Why is it better that it's not?
I don't think that it's not. It's probably just the leftovers that are used. So it's all about the ingredients, the raw ingredients. So obviously honey, for instance, is non-vegan, and that might be pure, which is fine, but it's all those byproducts that I think, and the farming of how we do it. I'm not a vegan myself. I call myself sort of a plant-based diet with a cheese problem. You're never going to get me away from, my wine and cheese. But it's not about that. It's about the stuff that the industry buys, the byproducts that they buy, and the chemicals that they mix it with. So it's not just the animals; it's also the chemicals, and those two combined are quite shocking. I mean, most women don't even realise that what they think they have dandruff, and men they think they have dandruff, and they don't. 75% of dandruff is actually a sulfate allergy. So getting rid of sulfates and parabens and all the things that are inside, beauty products, and replacing them with pure ingredients that come from nature, it just works so much better. And, I mean, the results are in itself, right? If you try the product and it doesn't work for you, then I failed.
So on these hair care products, is the quality the same or different, vegan versus non-vegan? The quality.
I think it's far superior.
And that is because they're leaving out the
lot of money. Yeah, because it costs a lot more money to make them. So you think about hair that you see for $4, that's probably costing them 40 cents. Then you've got all your marketing built into it and everything else that they do. This is completely different. Our cost of goods is really high compared to our retail price. So our margins are nowhere near the same.
Just the reason people went to chemicals. Right. The reason people went to chemicals in the beginning was to cut costs, not necessarily for effectiveness. I mean, cleaning or beauty products, we all know, having been in this industry, because we clean circuit boards, we clean other things. Natural products are definitely more expensive. They do a better job generally, but they're you can't do them in volume as easily from a cost standpoint. You don't see a cost reduction as you do with chemical products. So makes sense. Makes sense to all.
Isn't this common sense, though? I mean, are we really that silly? Is common sense not so common? We all know that if we eat well and we put quality vegetables and fruit and unprocessed food in our body, that we feel better and we live longer. But we know that costs more. I mean, seriously, you go to Whole Foods and you can spend your whole paycheck on 3 bags. We know that principle. We know that if we invest in quality products that are natural, that you get the return. This is exactly the same thing.
And when you say, how do you sell the products to the consumer when they're saying, hey, listen, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I'm on a budget, I completely agree 100% with what you say and do, and I'm 100% in everything you agree with. However, I've got 3 kids. I'm making $40,000 a year. My husband left me, and I got to pay my bills. So it'd be great to do that, but I can't. What do you say to that person?
Yeah, look, and I totally get that, but eventually you end up paying for it. So whilst you might be struggling now, the best thing you can do is ask for help, but don't compromise your health and that of your families, and especially when you're in a hard place. So yes, if it costs more to eat, then you know what? Go ask some people for some help.
Yeah, I think there's a psychological point here of looking better, feeling better, eating better, looking better, feeling better, mental health. Exactly.
I mean, what do people do when they're in a hole? They pick up the shovel and they keep digging. That's the problem. So the first thing to do is the awareness around that, the space that you're in, and then have empowerment to go ask for help. Everyone's good human beings. We see that time and time again when there's something that goes on in the world. Don't forget that giving starts in the community and giving starts with your neighbour. So I believe that, there's no reason. It might be a short-term thing, but even if you tell yourself this is short-term, This is, it's baked beans for a little bit. We've all done that in uni, right? Baked beans and passion pop or something terrible to get by. But as long as you don't commit to that long term and make that a behaviour, because the best thing you can do is invest in your health, because your health costs, is the most expensive thing. And the richest man in the world can't buy that.
When I'm in a hole, I'm looking for a ladder or a rope. I'm not looking for a shovel. I'm looking for the ladder or the rope to get out of that hole.
But there's two types of people in the world. There are victims, and there are people who, are positive. So, if that's your mentality, don't pick up the shovel. Go talk to somebody who's not a victim and say, help me, I want to pick up this shovel. And then I'll confiscate it from you. I'll say, what shovel? Come to my house for dinner and let's work through this, because you've overcomplicated it. Life is hard, but we're only ever one decision away from changing our life. And that's what we've got to remember, either for the good or the bad. You can have a beautiful marriage and go and decide to have an affair, and that's one decision. You can go out and be in a hole and put the shovel down and go ask somebody for help. That's a decision. So that's how I look at it anyway. Maybe it's too simple, but...
What is your website if people want to go and visit you?
Yeah, look, the book website, which is where we're starting this conversation, is called LeHRBlend, so LOEHRBLEND.com, and that's really about a community. So I'm so grateful that my business coach has actually headed that up, and she's volunteering and she's supporting women who have read the book, who want to transition their life into a blended life, and men as well. I don't know how many men I see that hide in the corner and at the sports game and try and pretend they're at work. I mean, everybody can hear the kids screaming in the background. Let's just own this stuff. So let's support each other, no matter where we are, whether we're in that hole or somewhere on the journey. Let's support each other, and because that's what's important, is your tribe.
Alex, I guess she saw you at that sports game, but okay, I won't tell anyone.
Yeah, not quite.
Well, you have so much free time.
It is.
He will soon once he's blending.
He's blending, but he takes on a lot of projects, and he's got a kind heart. And
he's a magpie. That's what I call people. They pick up objects. They pick them up all the time. It's really hard not to.
But so, how do people? If I wanted to become, well, I'm not a female-owned business, but if I wanted to become part of your network, what would I have to do?
Literally, connect with me on social. I give everyone my time, and I have someone who, I have a great pool of people. Don't forget, I'm not the talented one here. The people that I have attracted in my life, I'm extremely grateful. Oh, no, you should see the people around me. They are just brilliant. So what I do is I basically take like a brief. How can I help you? How can I empower you? And then what's beautiful about the people who are part of my advisory board and part of my group is they will help anyone. So if I refer them on and say, look, I think it'd be good to spend half an hour with my coach, then they will do that. And the universe has been so kind to me, and I think it's because you always lead with the intention of adding value first, and giving first. You shouldn't walk into a room or a conversation thinking there's something in it for you. And then what happens is the universe just delivers. And I know you might think that's fluffy, but it's all about intent and headspace and what you want to project. So look, reach out. I'll have a conversation with anyone who really wants to be part of this movement. And one by one, we'll get there. Hopefully my daughters will get to hear those affirmations and those things become real in the future. I mean, do you have children as well? Like, what world do you want them to grow up in?
Alex, you want to answer that question?
Well, a good world, right? A fair one, a balanced world, and a good world. And, of course, I think we're busy with our lives, and if we take a minute to look at the positives and the right things that we do, and anyone who has children knows that children, your life changes when you have them, and you look at their future more than your own future. And I think that's really where, a lot of us that have had, I would say, I thank God for the successes, and I understand, I learn from the failures, but, you get knocked down and you get up again, as some lyrics of the song would say. But you don't even realize you're being positive if you're positive. but you do realize you're a victim if you act like a victim. And I think that's, the world will definitely be positive to people who are positive back to them. So call it karma, call it what you want. I think it's very true.
Question for you: do you start out with companies that have zero revenue and haven't even launched their product or service, or they have to be at a certain level before you consider helping them out?
I've done a mix, and to me, it's that Picasso, right? And the driver, as I call them, so the founder and how they're going to drive it. So it's been about 50-50, to be honest. Some people, I like it to be an MVP, so a minimum viable product. They've taken it to market. Yep. There's some runs on the board, so I can see what the opportunity costs are. But a lot of them have been at early stage. But obviously through the YPO network, what they consider a small business is a $5 to $10 million business.
Right.
Which is crazy, right? So I'm also taking equity in some of their projects as well that they don't have time for. And that's what's really great about, that end of town and those successful entrepreneurs, those really successful ones, the ones in the top 1%. They just get luckier, as they say, the more that they do what they do, because their focus is unrelented. They really go after something, and where you put your focus, the energy flows, right? So they say no so much more than they say yes, which is great for me because that's deal flow as well. So, look, I'm open to any conversation. I'm just more interested in the ethics and the values of that person, and then I look at the commercial side. And if both of those tick the box and they want to have a bit of fun, like I don't take anything too seriously because, it's all about the journey and the impact, then, I invite that conversation. But, I mean, it's not just about people out there who are interested in starting their own business. Everybody is buying beauty. Everyone's, it's all expensive. You can literally make a decision today to be a conscious consumer and an ethical consumer and just switching your buying habits for one thing. And already we've made an impact. So that, don't think that, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Don't think that it's overwhelming. It's not. Just start shifting your behaviors 1 or 2 a week, and before you know it, you'll be in the headspace and something will come then, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's like taking one step at a time. You can't go 100 miles, but you go one step at a time. You look back and keep looking back, and you find out how much further along you've been. Do you assist people in gaining capital? Because, everything you've talked about, sweat equity, that's great. But if people don't have the money to have the marketing program that you're suggesting, do you hook them up with people, or how do they help out on that?
Yes, certainly. So obviously a lot of the YPO community is actually private equity and venture capital. And I've actually got shares in a 20 mil fund. So I have raised some capital in Australia as well. So there is capital there. For when the time's needed, but it's really important that we make that an alignment, not just for money. A lot of people give up equity too soon in the game for the wrong reasons. So let's make the business worth a bit before we go knocking on capital doors, and let's make sure whoever, we call it reverse pitching. So I don't like people who go out there and, again, I do the opposite, right? So you're going to expect this answer from me. But everyone puts their slide deck together and goes out and pitches to people, right? That's what they do. And they'll knock on every private equity. But the problem is the more you're knocking and the longer it takes for you to get capital, it starts to smell a bit funny to people. They're like, why aren't they investing in it? I do the opposite. I want people to come and knock on my door and say, do you want capital? Let me help you.
Unfortunately, we got to go. We had a great guest, great time, and we're off the air. KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Thank you very much, Tamara. Thank you very much, Alex. It's over.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.